Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Reporters here on France 24. In this edition, the forests of Cameroon, one of the great green lungs of Africa, if not the whole world, but a place at risk now, just like the Amazon rainforest in South America, of destruction through commercial overdevelopment. Vast swathes of trees have been razed to make way for rubber plantations, and with the erosion of the forest, a way of life is also being destroyed. Well, our reporter is Patrick Fondio. Patrick, we'll see your report in a moment's time. Tell us more first, though, about the human cost of this almost industrial-scale development of the Cameroon forest in the Congo Basin.
Listen, according to Greenpeace figures, there have been almost 10,000 hectares of forest clearing since 2012. It means that it's the size of a city like Paris, with very dramatic consequences on the people living there, and especially the pygmies, the Baka pygmies, who have been forced to quit the forest because their encampment have been destroyed, because they are since a few months inside that land, which has been given to one giant of the rubber, making some huge plantation, and to its Cameroonian subsidiary, which is Sud Hévéa, Cameroon. So there are very, very serious consequences on the ground, as we have been seeing by going to see those local communities in this southern part of Cameroon.
Patrick, thank you. And with no further ado, let's take a look now at Patrick's report.
From a fast-driving car, some bleak amateur footage taken last year by Greenpeace activists with a hidden camera. Hundreds of felled trees and desolate tree stumps left strewn across the forest floor. For Greenpeace, this is an unprecedented spate of land clearing and one of the most destructive by industrial agriculture here in the Congo Basin. This particular plot of forest in the South Cameroon is an ancient Baka pygmy stronghold. Despite our many requests, we were refused access to the site, which spreads across tens of thousands of hectares. Instead, we filmed the massive plantation using a drone. The concession now belongs to Halcyon Agri, one of the world's leading rubber producers. It's operated by the group's local subsidiary, Sud Cameroun Hévéa. Here, over the last few years, rubber production has become one of the main drivers of mass deforestation, posing a direct threat to the survival of the Baka pygmies. Marie has taken up the pygmy cause heart and mind. She is waging a silent war against the massive rubber giant and its 1,000-hectare concession. Her main objective, enshrining the rights of these native pygmies into law. We follow Marie, who is accompanied by Parfait, one of the local Baka pygmies. Parfait is intent on showing her the causes of his community's distress. Up ahead, the new terminal the concession has installed to mark out its territory, a border the local community disputes.
When we meet with the company's managers, they don't even recognize that they have encroached on the resources or areas once occupied by these indigenous people. You can see for yourself. This terminal is a few meters away from the last camp, and there are other camps inside. Our forests are gradually being monopolized by the mining, forestry, and agro-industries. If nothing is done today to preserve the area and protect resources that belong to these communities, soon there won't be anything left for these people who so depend on the forest. Their very existence is now at stake.
The traditional pygmy way of life, heavily dependent on nature in the forest, is now under threat. Close to the camp, we meet a Baka pygmy family, picking fruit. The fruit trees in this forest are also now fast disappearing, heavily affected by Hevea farming.
So this is our fruit tree, which has a real positive impact on living conditions here in the village. We used to sometimes sell some of its fruits, but the agro-industry has ransacked everything in its path, so much so that people no longer have access to this fruit we call dough. This is really disastrous for our community because it's difficult for us to get hold of much of it now. It's a very nutritious food source for us, which can be stored and preserved for up to 3 years.
We make our way down the track to one of the pygmy camps threatened with eviction. Soon, it too will be destroyed to make way for yet more rows of rubber trees. Parfait and Marie often come to check on this particularly impoverished family. And as community leader, he regularly ensures families here have enough food to survive. The villagers know that at least 4 pygmy camps have already been destroyed in recent months, and they fear theirs could be next.
They told us that our camp would become part of the concession. We're shocked that they're taking our land, as we have always lived in total harmony with the forest, and nothing prepared us for this news. We thought we had the right to know what was happening, because we are custodians of the forest. Even if it's a public forest, we have always cared and looked after it, and it's being stripped bare.
A few days later, and some 100 kilometers away from the rubber plantations, we meet Marie in the small town of Djoum, located near the Congolese border. We meet at her offices where she monitors the incremental and unrelenting deforestation taking place in this Congo basin, the planet's second largest tropical rainforest, and known as one of the world's second lungs.
Here you have a local Baka community, currently being relocated.
We look closely at the wall, onto which is pinned a community mapping system made up of official maps and field data. Maps drawn up with the intervention of the local communities in the concession. Many of them now accuse the rubber giant of gradually attempting to take over their land.
Local communities don't always understand where the boundaries lie. Sometimes we feel we can read the map, but then it changes again. We are told the limit is here, and shortly after it changes once more. For example, when we did the mapping at Biche, Djoum, Njikum, we were told that the boundaries we had at the time had been modified. So where do we draw the new perimeter lines? We've never seen an official document drawing up any of the new boundaries.
We obtained satellite imaging of this forest concession to find some hard data and assess the impact of the huge Hevea producer on this area of forest. 2,300 hectares of forest pulled down between 2017 and 2018, and 10,000 hectares since 2011. An immense stretch of tropical forest sacrificed to rubber planting. The land cleared area extends to the river, which separates the concession and the Dja Nature Reserve. UNESCO now wants to list this outstanding biodiversity hotspot in the World Heritage Danger List.
We've considered this question.
At the Greenpeace HQ, Sylvie Jacquebou and her NGO organised meetings to discuss the opaque elements of the contract signed between the Cameroonian state and the Halcyon Agri concession.
What really surprises me in this agreement is that the company doesn't pay tax. Even more worrying is the fact that it pays $1 per hectare, even though according to a financial law introduced in 1990, a hectare is actually worth $17, so roughly 10,000 CFA francs. In 2013, the Cameroonian government granted a permanent concession to Sud Cameroun Hévéa. However, foreigners by law do not have the right to own property in Cameroon. This is why Greenpeace Africa, in the interests of transparency, is still requesting that the Sud Cameroun Hévéa company concession documents and shareholder documents are made public. These documents should clearly be in the public domain.
This groundwork has paid off, and Halcyon Agri is now firmly in the public eye. Only last year, the vast rubber manufacturer published a press release in which it admitted to having nearly a quarter of Cameroonian shareholders, but without ever actually naming any. Despite the fact that many members of the local communities have not received any money to date, the rubber giant claims it has fairly compensated local residents for their loss of land and strongly denies any breach of Cameroonian law. Still awaiting their rightful compensation are Cyriac and his mother Justine. Justine once owned a fish farming pond that now falls in Sud Cameroun Hévéa's boundaries. An export report carried out by the Cameroonian Fisheries Administration had promised her a fair indemnity.
There was an expert's report on compensation, which estimated the amount at 55,436,000 francs.
Halcyon Agri was summoned to pay these 85,000 euros to Justine and Cyriac. 3 years on, and the money promised to them still has not been paid.
Since the summons were served upon Sud Hévéa, they have not made any move towards us, and so far we have not received a penny in compensation. Times are hard for us, you know our situation. Sud Hévéa hijacked nearly 75% of our forests, affecting the cassava, plantains, everything. We now find ourselves in a really bad place. This was one of the only ways for us to move forward.
After insisting for answers from the management of Sud Hévéa Cameroon, we were initially granted an interview with the CEO. But he then requested the right to review and amend all interview content. Nothing has happened since. The world's leading rubber producer, folding under pressure from NGOs, has finally announced new commitments towards the local Cameroonian communities, such as transferring 25,000 of its 100,000 hectares for a community forest, or implementing a forest clearing ban starting early 2019. Shallow promises so far for these communities, though, watching their tropical forest pulled down all around them.
A report there by Patrick Fandio, who is still with us. Patrick, thank you so much for that insight into what's happening in southern Cameroon. It's clear that there was a wall of silence that you had to get over to compile this expose. Tell us more about the problems that you encountered during filming.
I mean, like the key problem was to getting access to that land, and we have been having talks for months with Sud Cameroun Hévéa top management, and at the beginning they were quite okay with the fact that we are going to shoot there with them and see what they were doing, and finally we had this email that was sent to us a few weeks ago by the general manager of Sud Cameroun Hévéa saying that he wanted to see the report because before it's going on air, and also he wants to be able to check it and to reverse it or to make some kind of a modification on it. And we found out also that there were a lot of local community were really afraid just to talk about the topic, and even Greenpeace, we were scheduled to go on the ground with them, and it never happened. And even UNESCO, we wanted to ask the regional director of UNESCO about the fact that this Dja Reserve, natural reserve, was threatened, and we couldn't make that interview till now.
It's interesting, so many organisations and people seemingly scared of business. Interesting concept you've unearthed there. This zone now will show everybody at home the map of Cameroon, the area that's at risk. Patrick, tell us more about the scale of this area and what actually is right now under threat.
Actually, the main and the key problem here is also because this area is a very specific area in the Cameroonian context. You know, we have been next to a place, 7 kilometers from a place which is named Vokmeka. This name is the name of a village. It's the name of President Paul Biya village, which has been, which is surrounded by all these rubber plantations. And when we tried to go there, we had local authorities telling us, like, guys, you know that you're coming to a presidential compound, and you may pay attention not to have any footage of any kind of presidential building. So that gives you a sense of the tension that was there. Also, there is a lot of rumors in Cameroon about the Cameroonian ownership of Sud Cameroun Hévéa. According to some NGOs, they are members of the regime who are part, who are state, who are owners of this company. So that's that they're making sure not to be pointing at some people that are considered as very powerful in Cameroon.
Patrick, thank you very much indeed. Patrick Fandio, our reporter there in Cameroon. You can see, of course, Patrick's report again via our website, www.france24.com. This is Reporters on France 24. Stay with us.